I'm thinking of a very important word, and it starts with the letter V. Volatility. That's what we're seeing in the markets, as over $100 million has been liquidated from the crypto markets over the last 1 hour. 1 hour, 100 million volatile as, well, President Trump. Well, we'll get into that here in a second. Also, we're going to talk some Ethereum. We're going to talk some Solana and why one company and one investor says Solana is a better treasury hold than Ethereum is. We have the FOMC tomorrow. With the escalation in war, can we see the Fed pivot and decide to cut rates for the first time in a while? We have that and much, much more on today's episode of SINCITY Crypto. Let's go.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to SINCITY Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content. We take old, boring, stale information, repackage all that up in a fun, sexy way. We have fell under $105,000 on Bitcoin. So is it time to sell? Is the bear market around the corner? Or is this just another Donald Trump scare? I don't know. We're going to unpack that here as well. You know, I was thinking to myself today, are we going to go to war? Is this thing escalating? And if there were to be an escalation, does that automatically mean that Bitcoin's price will go down? Because I think that perhaps in the short term it would, but a little concerned that how long will it last? You know, I think it'll bounce back quickly. Even in times of turmoil, we saw it when Russia invaded Ukraine. We had an immediate sell-off on Bitcoin, and we saw the markets take a downturn. But that pretty much was signaling the bottom of the bear market. That's when we were sub $20,000, and then shortly thereafter, a couple months later, we were off above 20K again, and well, that kind of signaled the bottom of the bear market. And so I don't know, man. I think. I mean, what's your takeaway, man? I mean, this is the top pressing story is, you know, there's obviously Israel and Iran exchanging missile fire. Seems like the U.S. is ever more present in the situations there. I don't want to make this political, but we see that as this escalates, the price of Bitcoin takes a
De-escalates.
Hopefully, man. And so
the Bitcoin de-escalates.
Yes.
So hopefully not.
Yeah, so we're not trying to make the show political, but I mean, there's a direct correlation here. Every time this ramps up and gets a little bit more, you get a little bit more nervous that war might be around the corner. Also, the price of Bitcoin tends to get a little nervous as well. And so just on the last 24 hours, take a look. We started yesterday's show at 108,000. Yesterday's show, we were at 108. And now we're at a 104. So a lot of uncertainty or a lot of unease when it comes to the price of Bitcoin. But you zoom out a little bit, you take a look on the 1 week here. Also not looking good, kind of the same situation. But you zoom out on the 1 month, we're still range bound between 102 and that 108 mark. So I'll send it over to you. What's your kind of thoughts here on Bitcoin and all of this? I know I kind of I'm glazed over it, but
I'm very disappointed, man. I am very, very disappointed. I put out a post yesterday. What happened to this war would have never started if I was president? I don't know, man. I'm just like, it's the same shit over and over again. It's very frustrating. Just like portfolios aside, just what's happening. This guy's got a daughter in one of the countries that's literally being bombed. And so it's very annoying and frustrating when it's the people who have zero skin in the game and then everyone else has to suffer for it because of they want to measure how big their you-know-whats are. And so it's just very frustrating, very annoying. And but here we are. Here we are today. Stock market's not very thought it'd be more down than this, but Dow's only down 0.5%, as is the S&P and the NASDAQ. Crypto, on the other hand, well, 61 million in 1 hour. This number was over 100 million a few hours ago. Over the last 4 hours, 200 mil, and then over the last 24 hours, $500 million. Has been liquidated, and obviously you guys know, majority of it is longs. We put in a long yesterday off of a market cipher B, anchor wave, trigger wave setup. It was looking good, and then here we go. We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. And that was one tweet. The other tweet was, we know where the supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but he's safe for now. And so actively threatening to assassinate the president of Iran, and then Trump considers strike. And then we have just continuous news. You guys know there's a lot of places I search for news and content for the show. One of the big places is X, and I can't, you have to go to specific profiles to find anything that's not related to what's happening overseas. And so I'm out of the markets. There's a lot of volatility. You just don't know. We took an L on our long yesterday, which is fine. We had a tight stop loss, but you just don't know. If he comes out and says we got a peace treaty signed or everything's going to be fine, you're going to see $110,000 Bitcoin almost right away. If it's the opposite, you can see a $95,000 Bitcoin. Now,
you think if America gets dragged into this more than just these threats, you think we see sub
initially, yes,
$100,000?
Yeah.
Hey, take a look here. This is on the 1 month. This month of trading, this little red line here, that's when we went down and tested 100,000. We went down for the briefest moment ever. $100,500.
Don't you think?
And so,
but that was off of maybe the U.S. gets involved. If the U.S. gets involved, it's definitely going under 100.
I'm not saying it won't go under 100. I'm just saying that obviously is a psychological number, 100K, and we've talked about it before. You know, if we find ourselves in a situation where the support is going to get tested, will it hold? Will we stay over 100K forever? You know, because I think this way. If we get past this situation that we're in now, the geopolitical situation, we get past it and say 2 weeks from now, we're looking at Bitcoin's price. We're in price discovery. You know, we're at 120,000, or even say 3 months from now. Once that happens and we're far enough away from 100K, I don't think we go under 100,000. I think 100,000 is the baseline, right? I think we never see, 5-digit Bitcoin again. That's my personal opinion. However, I don't think we're far enough away from this wick here. And the wick still held support, but I don't think we're far enough away from that 100,000 to not go under there right now. So if we come out of this thing a month from now, 3 months from now, whatever it is, we're at 120K, we're good. But until then, if next week this escalation happens, hopefully it does not. You know, as you alluded to, I do got family over there in the war-torn area, so it sucks, bro. But you know, you can only do so much. But either way, 100K, I think will hold. If things escalates, gets out of control, I don't think so. I agree with you. I think it drops under 100K.
Yeah.
But if we get to that 120, 100K in the rear view, 5-figure Bitcoin in the rear view, there you go.
Well, if you're wondering what the odds are, 67% U.S. projected to take imminent military action against Iran. 67%. I was woke up this morning, turned on a PBD podcast. He had 60,000 people watching, and it was about this whole situation. So everyone's on the edge of their seats trying to figure out what to do. Now, I think the important question here is, a lot of people try to front run a certain narrative or a certain situation, and they end up being late. And then what happens is you think you're making the smart move by pulling all your money out of the markets. And then by the time you pull it all out, everything starts going back up again. Then you go buy back in at a higher price, and it's just not good. So what is one piece of advice you would give the people there, Rob, is to just hold through the turbulence or take some risk off the table?
Here's the thing. Like, it depends on who you are. If, let's just say you're a seasoned trader, you know what you're doing, you've been through volatile moments, and you might chase that. I know, I'm gonna get there, but a good analogy here would be, if you surf, right? If you're mediocre at surfing, you don't have a lot of experience, in comes a hurricane, stay out of the waters. But there are people that chase hurricanes, right? They chase, certain weather events because they know there's going to be massive waves, and they chase that. But they're experienced and they know what they're looking for. And so when it comes to investing in crypto in high volatile times, if you got the experience, you know what you're doing, then jump in. There's a lot of traders that were bored to death during the bear market. They're bored to death during last year's massive price consolidation of that $60,000 Bitcoin price range, and they were waiting for big breakouts. And so it just depends on where you're at. That also goes over to your buy and sell positions. Is it the best time to offload $500,000 that you had on the sidelines? You're trying to do a giant buy on Bitcoin or altcoins? I don't know. I mean, it might be. It's going to swing one way or the other. When volatility and uncertainty, once you get those coming to a head, you got it's going to break one way or another. You just got to put your position in. And so the big question is, are you going to be on the wrong side of the trade? Are you going to be on the wrong side of the buy? If it's a spot buy, you're probably good holding it long term, unless it's a crappy alt. I would be very careful of buying a crappy alt at this point in time. If it's outside the top 20, I personally would recommend not going deep on a buy. Now, if you want to have capital on the side, you want to wait for that pullback, right? If you're expecting that $90,000 Bitcoin or whatever it is, you're going to get massive discount on their alts. But at the same time, this could be the very last pullback before new all-time highs in Bitcoin, even with all the uncertainty. Look, this right here, 110,000, this was a week ago, okay? So you're at all-time highs 7 days ago. And so if you don't think that this thing reverses and pops up to 115,000, it was only 7 days ago we were right here. It's seeming less likely now with the events unfolding, but we know what Bitcoin does. It quickly reverses. So don't get caught on the wrong side here.
Yeah, if you are going to buy the dip, I just keep it very isolated. You just go down the coin market cap list. Bitcoin, yes. Ethereum, yes. XRP, yes. Solana, no. Tron, no. Doge, no. Cardano, no. Sui, yes. Chainlink, no. Actually, Chainlink, yes. Avalanche, yes. So just because, and let's just look at the worst, right? Aerodrome down 17%. Am I buying that dip right now with all the uncertainty? Probably not. Also depends on what kind of position you already have. Virtuals Protocol at $1.68. Am I buying more of that right now with all this uncertainty? No, I'm not. I have a bag. I'm good with the amount of risk I have on there. If, I don't know, some crazy happens and this thing goes down to $1, I'll be fine. Or goes down to 50 cents, I'll be fine. Definitely not any meme coins. That's what I'll say. So if you have your tiered list of projects that you're hyper bullish on, and this is from a fundamental standpoint, if we get the dips on those projects, those are the ones that I want to buy. Otherwise, if you already took risk off the table, I would keep that risk off the table for now. If you haven't taken risk off the table, I think at this point, me personally, and of course, I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I don't know your financial situation and all the other stuff that goes with it. But me personally, I'm not panic selling into this dip because literally we can see a tweet later today. We were going to join the war, but we had a talk with the supreme leader and we came to an agreement, and then everything goes back up and you're kicking yourself in the butt. So that would be my recommendation to myself, because we can't give you any recommendations when it involves money. But I can recommend that we say hi to Ashley. Hi, Ashley. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're great. It's Tuesday. What are you doing here?
I don't know, honestly.
Fair enough.
Just here.
That's insane.
What up?
That's insane.
I know.
What are your thoughts on this war thing? I mean, I know you got a little bit of money in the markets. Are you freaking out?
A little bit of money in the markets.
I
I'm
don't know.
not
Maybe you
freaking
have a
out.
lot of money in the markets.
I'm not freaking out about the money thing. I'm more freaking out about there's people getting killed.
Yeah, I agree.
Money is not my biggest concern.
This is very true, but for a
Yep.
lot of people, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. All right. You have any names you want to shout out?
As of right now, no. I
Wow,
don't think.
slackers over here.
I know.
It's okay.
Sorry.
We're gonna have Magic join us in a little bit. We're just onboarding him backstage. I do want to talk about a little bit about Solana here, real quick. I gave my shtick on buying the dip. You got any context you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I was just going to say proceed with caution. If you know what you're doing, then at that point, I would say, like, hey, find your spot. Just be easy, bro. Don't go all in on a too much risk. I think right now is a good time to buy some of the alts. Alts are down. The big alts. You have XRP down 6%. It's almost right at $2. Might be a good entry point there on XRP. We got Solana at $140. I'm pretty bullish on Solana once the altcoins run. I think now that we saw a little bit of upward price action on ETH finally, even though it's pulled back lately, I think that kind of just signals that Solana is next in line. And so I think Solana might be a good project to buy at the current moment. Not to mention, we have Cardano. So take a look. Cardano's down 13% on the week at 60 cents. This is something that we were looking at earlier this year. So back in February, got to $1.12, and then back in December, $1.20. And so you could find a quick 2x out of Cardano if you believe that the markets will bounce back. It's almost for sure on Cardano to get a 2x. So the big alts for me, even in these times right now, are looking undervalued. And so I think it's a good time to buy. My only thing is I just wouldn't go too far down the list. Outside the top 20, I think is where I would stop right now. Because if you get a further drawdown on alts or on Bitcoin, these outside the top 20 are going to take a shellacking. Shellacking, yeah.
Speaking of shellacking, my boy over here shellacking the charts. I don't know if that was was that a compliment, by the way? I don't know. We'll ask Magic. Magic, welcome back to the show. It's Tuesday. We're excited to have you. Did you take that comment I made as a compliment, Magic? I hope you did.
I love a good shellacking.
You're a good man, Magic. You're a good man. Magic, before we get into a Bitcoin chart, or maybe you want to talk over it or talk about it over a Bitcoin chart, but what are your thoughts on all the uncertainty going on? Have you shifted your strategy as far as trading and investing? If you want to shed some light for the people watching, maybe it's their first cycle, or maybe some people are watching and they're a little afraid of what's going on.
I mean, war is definitely not good for markets. If you look historically, like world wars isn't going to bode well. But for me, I don't put a lot of weight into it because I try to have my plans already mapped out. Because kind of like, you said, you really don't know what's going to happen next. Trump could tweet out and be like, hey, we're all good. We're friends again. So, and the market's pumped. So you really just kind of have to have your own invalidations of what's going to make or break. And then whatever the underlying catalyst is that sets those plans into motion is what it is. You have no control over that unless you're the one, pushing the buttons on a bomb or something. But my thoughts on it are, I don't like war, don't like what's going on over there. But there's more important things than Bitcoin go up infinitely and forever. So hopefully that gets a peaceful resolution.
Not unless you're talking to Michael Saylor, then, well,
very true. He's a one-track mind for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
So Magic with Bitcoin sitting at $103,900. We did get that Rob show. We did get that wick down to 100. What are your thoughts on if we do see another wave of, I don't know, $100 million liquidations over the next 1 hour or so, or over a time period of 1 hour? How low do you think Bitcoin can go before there's going to be buyers willing to step in with all the uncertainty based off of what you see structurally on the chart?
Sure. Pretty simple. Let's get rid of the weekly opens. They're just not important right now, are they? Rarely are they unimportant, but today they're just not relevant.
We got to go
Neither
to
is
the 1 minute
previous
chart today, Magic.
I know. Not really. We're going to be talking about some high time frame stuff. You've got your previous week low here, obviously fairly important, but I believe this is the June low here at the bottom of our structure. So realistically, as you're looking at this, the one thing you'll notice is that you had not taken any of these lows, and you finally did, and you got that move down. I actually started marking out your guys's shows from when we do analysis for week to week. So it's got its own little folder. And I just put the boxes in there, not the entire analysis. And this is what was the level we were looking to hold. We've since, bounced one. This is our key level. We're now back there. So when we go back to the weekly chart and we take a look at those again, it really wouldn't look good if the weekly starts closing below about 102.723. So if you wanted to move that box up a little bit and say, 103, you certainly could. It's where we're at now. Realistically, you are looking to me down to like this 96, 95K area still. And the only reason is projected averages, both on a bi-quarterly and a quarterly basis, come in there. They're the same number, which almost never happens just because Bitcoin's a fairly volatile asset. So rarely does the 6 month and the quarterly coincide on an average that's horizontal like this, but it does happen. So to me, that doesn't do any real damage to the chart, even coming all the way back down to like the yearly open, because this will trend lower if price trends lower. So for me, I've got that, I wouldn't say expectation, but statistics are statistics, and below this previous week low here around 102,000, give or take, is where I start to say, okay, we could see that mean reversion and retrace some of this pump. It lines up really, really nicely with the idea that we're in an overall range, which you could see on the weekly here. Is pretty easy to spot from our breakout. So if you were to just kind of, draw like a volume profile like so, we could start seeing more of a bigger picture here. And we can see that the point of control is right at where those averages are going to print. But again, if that move takes place before the end of June, these will trend down. So like we talked about, the two key levels I'm really looking for in the next, 30 to 60 days, if there's going to be a retracement, is going to be that, yearly open at 93,371. And we've talked about the importance of that before, but also this like 88K level, which was just such a big level on the 60-day chart. So Bitcoin can pull back quite heavily and really not do a ton of damage to this structure. It's just, this is a huge move that happened very quickly. So, one thing I'd like to point out is everybody's comparing it to 2021, which rightfully so. You can certainly do that. And I don't think that's always the best way to go about things, but we'll highlight the 50% pullback on this move and the 61.8, which puts you between 87 and 93,000. Gives you a big 5 to 6% zone there. And these averages again would trend into this if price started to make that move beforehand. So while you're above these lows here, things are fine. But the moment we start losing this area, my eyes shift immediately down to this part of the region or part of the chart. And the one reason I wanted to bring that up is when you're looking at something like this, which the last time we saw a 60-day and a 30-day average setup not play out. And what I mean by that, for anyone that's curious, is that what you'll notice is that you had your first 60-day average here in white. I believe it's white anyway. It's like an off-white. And then the blue ones here are monthlies. And you'll notice that you opened consecutive 30-day averages below a 60-day. You almost never do that. And when you do, the trend reverses. The only time that we have not done that and topped out was in 2021, where we then had that immediate push back to a new all-time high before, obviously, that whole market cycle happened. If you were looking at similar price action and thinking it's going to play out the same, there was a sizable pullback here. And if you're just going off of the fibs, just like we did before, you would be looking at this and saying, where is my 618 and my 50% mark? And lo and behold, you would be right in that window, kind of like what we were looking at. And I remember when this happened, it was just a back test of the breakout. If you look just to the left here, and if we were to go and just scroll over, you can see that the similarities are certainly there, where this would be that first initial move, except now we're already at all-time highs. That's the thing that's different. So I'll get rid of this because it's just a range, and you can see that it looks similar. There's your breakout, there's your back test. That's the level you have to hold. And the only reason I say that is, I won't go through every instance of what I'm about to cover, but in the instance that the 6 month and the 3 month or quarterly pivots generate basically on top of each other, it's only happened a handful of times. If you lose this level, wherever it generates, whether it's here at 96 or at 93, you will go to the S1, which is the support one of the quarter. This one is not going to show me the quarterly. We have it set up to show us where the S1s will generate and R1s in theory based on where price is at. And this is only showing the bi-quarterly, but it would put your S1 right here in like the 87 to 88K range as of right now. So if this is lost, that becomes your target, which is a meaningful support for us. So you just don't want to see it turn into resistance. But it really just kind of hails to the importance of the yearly open. If you wanted to super simplify it, it's just all peeling together. The onion core is yearly open is really key for us to be living above, macro wise. And I would encourage anyone that has a TradingView account and, does any kind of charting is just to put horizontal rays at the yearly opens and go back and review price, and you'll be very surprised at what you find. So it's a very easy way to view the chart. So yeah, that's how I see Bitcoin.
Awesome, brother.
It's still
I was gonna say we got an influx of viewers from the BitLab Academy. Those of you that don't know who the voice behind the chart is, that's our friend Magic Internet Money. We're gonna prompt his Discord. You should go hop in there. This man knows what he's talking about. If you're looking for some solid, in-depth TA, this is your guy right here. Magic, can we pivot over to Ethereum? ETH had a lot of momentum. It was running. We're talking about ETH meta, ETH season. I know we looked at ETH last week, Magic, but kind of similar case study, if you don't mind, on ETH like we did with BTC. And is this something that I always have a hard time asking these questions because I don't want to put you in a spot where you're telling people what to do, but is this a spot where you'd feel comfortable adding to your Ethereum bag if you already had a little bit of exposure but wanted more?
If I have a little bit of exposure and I'm being more risk on, sure. But for me, I probably start to look a little bit lower on this one just because of the failure that we had right here. This move up was actually pretty decent. Like this was a nice SFP on a daily basis. If I recall, it was this guy right here. Yeah, there you go. And let's make that a nice white. So I like to track things on swing fail basis, and I use those as levels, as you guys know. And this was an old swing failure pattern that we had seen in this consolidation. And we actually came back, took the highs. We talked about how, 2,800 to 3,000 is probably going to be resistance. But if it's cleared, we can look, maybe much further north. So realistically, you are looking down to probably the bottom side of this range around 2,300. But again, just like with Bitcoin, and these are averages that are printing. They haven't printed yet. But you can see that you are starting to have these show themselves a little bit lower, pointing out that we're probably going to make a new low inside of this range. In my opinion, you've kind of left them where they are. So I would be a little more patient. But if you're a long-term investor, maybe you're not looking to get the exact low. But for me, I'm expecting probably a new low within this range. And then the key is, will that low hold? Because if it doesn't, as we talked about, I do think that you open the door at that point to a retest of like previous monthly highs here, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2,000. So while that's not a huge swing from 2,471 to 2,000 to some people, that's completely immaterial. To me, as a trader, that's more ideal to me. So could you make a case for these lows being a good place to buy? Absolutely. I'm always a reaction trader though. So I'm expecting to see a new low within the range. And then I want to trade that. If it's a new low, we take everyone out and it finds its way back in. It's a great time to maybe add to the position and look for the highs of the range, or an attempt at those higher prices that we talked about around like 32. But if that doesn't happen, it's coming down. It's probably going to come down into this like 1,900 to 2,000 range. And then we can evaluate and go from there.
Awesome. I know I was going to ask you about one coin,
fart coin.
Yeah. A friend of mine told me this morning they bought some fart coin, And well, it ain't looking too good. But can you give my friend some hope here?
Oh man, we looked at this one a long time ago, actually, and it is performing pretty well, comparatively speaking, I think, to some. In our initial analysis, I had one box on the chart if I was willing to buy, and it was all the way down here, as you can see. We're well and far away from that. This move did go a little bit higher. I believe we actually were somewhere in this region of the chart, and it made a new high. But what we had talked about was realistically, even if this thing made a new high into the overall gold pocket here, um, not I'm not a buyer into this resistance. If we zoom out again to the monthly, you can see that you've failed to close monthly candles above $1.30 yet again since the inception of this thing, which there's not a ton of history. But again, we want to see that change of behavior. So I think it's a range bound play. If you're going to make any kind of a bid on this, I would wait for the yearly open at 93.66 cents. And if that's lost, this box is probably going to be seen. And I would argue that you may even see lower than that. Looking at things like the previous month low, lining up at that yearly open. So if this happens in the month of June and you get a clean sweep here, not a bad idea to look at that at least as a intraday or intra-week trade potentially. But if it's lost, I mean, I'm looking down in like the 45-cent region and maybe lower, because if you take a peek at the monthly, you really don't have any kind of a support built up here between this low being taken on the monthly and then these closures kind of like they're not tweezer bottoms, but close to it. So this would be where your demand would be at. But the quarterly is also setting up for a similar look. So to me, I would be cautious with this one. I feel like the high is probably in, but I say that about a lot of different alts, and I've caught some flack for it. But there's always going to be outperformers. But I'm not going to be the one to suggest hodling fart coin for sure. Can you trade it? Absolutely, especially if it's got volatility and the levels are very well defined here, in my opinion. So I would trade 92 to 93 cents. If that fails, I think you're going to see a 50% haircut from that, target. So I would just keep that in mind.
All right. I don't think my friend's going to like hearing this, but that's okay.
Well, he shouldn't be scared about that. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. It's just, to me, the most likely outcome.
All I got to do is give him a pat on the back. He'll be fine. And then Magic, if you don't mind, before I let you go, is there another chart specifically that you're eyeing as far as maybe a trade setup?
There is one actually. It's not a cryptocurrency though.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
It is. Where is my UPS chart? So I'm a big UPS guy because I worked at UPS in college, for anyone that doesn't know. But I was looking at UPS long term. I've been watching this one come down into kind of a buy territory for me. Trying to set up potentially, this is supposed to be monthly bullish divergence, but you would really have to confirm a low for this to play, just so everyone's aware. But it's got a really nice setup. And the one reason I really highlight something like this is if it does confirm a low and that plays out, the target on this would be $154. You're sitting at 99, it's 50%, growth in a stock, and you're going, man, I can get that in a day in a crypto. You can, but this would be more of a long-term play, a little bit safer, but also it pays a yearly dividend. And I believe the UPS yearly dividend is substantial. So that was kind of the idea. So that's one area. Yeah, it's $6.56 a share as of right now. So roughly, 6 and some change % dividend yearly. And that's never a bad thing. So I know everybody on here is a little bit more risk tolerant than I probably am. But yeah, UPS was one that I've been eyeballing, and it's come into a really good spot where, if we can put in a low here, this has got some good upside potential and also just a great return in terms of, dividends. So,
Magic, did you say that you worked at UPS?
I worked at UPS for a long time, brother. I started out as a package guy, and then I delivered and all that stuff. So,
were you there when they were paying the crazy like $200,000 a year kind of money?
No, when I was there, if you were a driver, top pay was like $36.60 something an hour.
Oh, an hour. I thought you were going to say $36,000 a year. I was like, what?
No, $36 an hour. But this is also back in like 2010, or 2011, I think. And yeah, that's a long time ago. I'm old.
How'd you get into
that? Was really good.
How'd you get into trading? I don't think I've ever asked you this.
So it's a really long story. It's not that long. I guess I bought XRP in 2017 because I had a coworker that told me to, and obviously it did really well. I bought in at like 3 cents and it went ballistic,
Damn.
held all the way through the top. And then I was used to follow a lot of people because I went straight cold. I was like, oh man, this thing's the future. It's got great tech. And that's not saying it doesn't have great tech and it doesn't have a great future. I'm not trying to, bash on it here, but it obviously dropped substantially from those highs. And I just kept consuming fundamental news and being told that, don't worry about it. It's going to $10 and then $5.89. I was like, okay, well, so far, the excitement I had from my investment was pretty substantial. So I sold it $1.20 finally. I got out at about a 40x, which is good.
Not bad.
No, it wasn't bad. But I got on YouTube and I was like, some people were like gloating in comments like, oh, you guys are idiots. I sold it 270 or I sold here. And I was like, how did they know? And I got hooked up in a Telegram group and started learning patterns. And then one day someone approached me and were like, hey, you're really good at this. Do you ever want to teach? And I was like, not really. And so some guy from Australia had me start teaching, and that's just kind of how it worked.
Awesome, man.
I didn't even know what disc.
That's
to be honest, I had no.
Everyone remembers their first buy story, and yeah, mine was Bitcoin, but my first altcoin buy was Cosmos.
Oh, nice.
Some guys.
My second one was
Ethereum. Yeah, some guys sold me on it. It's going to be the future, yada yada. I got my entire family to invest in it, and then that was towards the top of the market. And well, I'm not invited to Thanksgiving dinners anymore. I'll leave it at that.
I couldn't get my parents to buy Bitcoin or anything for the life. When it was like 3K, I was like screaming in 2019. I was like, you guys have to like start buying this. And they wouldn't do it. And now they're all, obviously they came around sooner than like 100K, but last cycle it was like 40, I think. And everyone's like, hey, should I buy? I'm like, it's getting up there, but you can if you want.
Now you get all the invites to all the family gatherings, It's
now I don't tell people I do crypto stuff because I know better. People start asking you for financial advice, like unsolicited, like they don't even know you from Adam. They could be some guy at the store. If they find out, they're going to ask you what you think and like what they should do. It's crazy.
That is, I agree. That is so funny to me because just randomly when you meet people like, oh, what are you doing? And I do a, podcast and like, what's your podcast? I'm like, SINCITY Crypto. You're like, crypto? What should I buy? I was thinking about buying XRP. Should I buy it? I'm like, would you really trust me if I told you to or not to? Like, you don't even know me. Thought that was funny. But
exactly. Did it happen to me at a Five Guys one time because I had a Magic Internet Money shirt on and I was just buying a burger and I was traveling and this dude walked up and he was like, what do you think of XRP? And this is when it was trading at like 40 cents and the bottom had already come in. And I told him, I was like, well, if you lose 30, like, I think it was like 33. I was like, you're kind of cooked here, bud. But if I were you, I'd wait for the rotation. It might see new highs again.
Yeah.
And that's as much as I'm going to say. And he was like, thank you. And I did plug you guys because I was obviously coming onto your show at the time.
Good man, bro.
So maybe he's watching. If you remember me from a Five Guys in Overland Park, Kansas, shout out. Thanks for being here.
Shout out to you. Speaking of shout out to you, Magic. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on here, my friend. Guys, if you enjoy Magic and his TA and his content, go join his Discord. We have that link pinned to the top of the chat here. And if you enjoy him and, well, for some strange, odd reason, you're like, I don't like joining Discords. Well, just come back here every Tuesday. He joins us for the most part. Magic, as always, thank you. And we'll see you next week, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you. What's up, man?
What's up?
That's good.
Love it. Nothing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what Magic said there, Rob?
My biggest takeaway was like, don't overreact. And I think that the support levels he put in there, spot on, bro. Spot on. So funny, man.
Nothing.
You don't agree with his TA?
I love his TA.
Okay, cool.
That was great.
Right.
What level did you think was I'm just kidding. Okay, let's move on. Robbie, he went over Bitcoin, ETH, Fartcoin. Told him a friend of mine bought Fartcoin, feeling a little regret. So hopefully put their mind at ease. But you take a look at the rest of the markets. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up crypto bubbles. The bubbles. Obviously, everything is red. Biggest loser, Virtual Protocol down 15%, $1.67. If you have no exposure. Now, I said I would not be buying more because I have a lot of exposure. If you don't have any exposure and you're in my Patreon and you keep seeing me talk about Virtual Genesis 50x, 20x, 30x, and you're like, it's $2, it's $1.67. It's your money. You do with it whatever you want. But if you're looking to get into that ecosystem, it's 40% off right now or 30% off from where it's height, around $2.20. Again, as Magic mentioned, Fartcore down. Everything is red. We take a look at the last week. Antonio Brown is up 40%. Sasakaya is up 11.9%. And Judo is up 11.6%. I know I completely went off rail with the names, but you guys get the point. Everything's in the red. And so I'm just kind of scrolling X here, trying to find any sort of info. It's apparently today we'll know more about this whole U.S., Iran, Israel thing. And so I would just recommend, if you are not a seasoned trader, just stay on the sidelines. If you are a seasoned trader and you want to try to make money on these swings, whatever way you go, set very tight stop losses. Very, very tight stop losses. That's what we did on our long yesterday. And although we got stopped out, we minimized our downside risk. With that being said, let's move on to some Solana news. Solana ETF approval odds by July 31st have jumped from 63 to 76% in the past 24 hours from Polymarket. 76% chance that we get an ETF approval in the month of July, end of the July. Also, we have this as well. Early Bitcoin adopter says BTC could have another 100x cycle. Brad Mills forecasts a 100x Bitcoin rally driven by institutional adoption, having induced scarcity and retail-focused technology developments. He predicts the Sailor cycle. That's what he called it, the Sailor cycle. A decade-long growth for Bitcoin driven by Michael Saylor's influence and Saylor's treasury haul. Rob, out of the three things he mentions of a 100x Bitcoin rally, institutional adoption, having induced scarcity, and retail-focused technology developments, I know all three matter. But which one do you think matters the most to you, at least?
If we see a $10 million Bitcoin,
yeah,
that's I guess that's all that really matters. If you see a $10 million Bitcoin, I think that global uncertainty has arisen. I think you have the collapse of fiat currency in some form, or at least people lose.
So you think
faith
for
in
Bitcoin,
it.
100x is total carnage?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
$10 million Bitcoin?
Well, this is in the next, I think, 10 years.
Yeah. Like 10. If we get to $1 million on Bitcoin, which it's inevitable, it's coming. And I do think that $10 million Bitcoin is inevitable, but I think it's for way further out than 10 years. I think that if you go by kind of the halving cycles and just remember, you got the law of diminishing returns as an asset grows. I mean, it's small. Apple stock is not going to increase by 100x now, right? Doesn't matter if they got the newest iPhone or maybe they got an Apple car. I don't know. It's still not going to 100x. The thing is just because of its size in the market. And so the same is true here for Bitcoin. And so I know people can look historically and be like, hey, it moved from 1,000 to 100,000 in less than 10 years. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is true. However, and now at this point, the likelihood of it going from 100,000 to 10 million, it's a lot less likely. And so I think if that happens, that's kind of like I know there's a lot there. And I know you're asking which one is most bullish, but I just got to put my 2 cents on a $10 million Bitcoin. Little out there. Kind of like when you hear the XRP to $175 or whatever it is, or Hedera to $500. It's just like, come on, guys. We can always say like, hey, something outperformed expectations.
Wait, you don't think XRP is going to 275?
There's outperforming expectations, and then there's just outright delusional, right? And then you can always put in these what ifs, 45 years from now. Okay, sure. Then okay, yeah, I guess that's possible, yeah. But in the time horizons that people are actually talking about, it's just a lot of that in crypto. You don't see that in traditional finance. We don't tune into Wall Street channels, right, or traditional finance. You don't tune into CNBC and hear somebody say, "Hey, buy Tesla now because it's going to 100x in the next." Like that doesn't happen. Not at least not in reality. So, Ashley, what's going on over there?
What?
Did you get names yet? You got people?
I do.
And what do you got?
That's so crazy.
Insane.
These
Let's
are
go.
all names that I can't say, but Jones, Christian, Red Elephant, Food is Life, Objective Reality, Tony Rosses, Milton Jones, Milton. Why are there so many Miltons?
It's a common name now.
Bit for Fun. Yeehaw. Yay. Go team.
Wow.
Y'all are quite quiet over there now.
Ashley, you inspire so much excitement.
I honestly do. I don't know.
It's pretty insane the amount of excitement I see. I was going to ask you, can you yell at everyone? Do we have 350 people watching and only 89 likes?
Why is no one liking? That's not very nice.
Yeah.
Be kind. Like the video.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, we doing a confessions today, or is that another?
Did you get a new
is that
sip? Hold on.
I
Hold
can if you
on.
want.
Hold on. Did you get a new sippy cup?
No, it's the same sippy cup.
Okay.
Do you guys want me to do the confessions? They're all kind of old. They're from like the beginning of the month.
Or do
'Cause
you
nobody
wanna
is sending them
You want to
in.
rally? You want to explain the section to everyone, and then maybe we'll run one next week or something.
I need y'all to send in your confessions to my email, which is on. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat, and then we'll pin it to the top.
Okay. But you send in your confessions. I talk about them anonymously, and then we'll give you advice or we'll talk about you.
Or we'll talk about you.
Send us your funny crypto stories or just personal embarrassments. Ashley will read over them. She'll make fun of you. We'll read it on air anonymously. So we've had some interesting ones. We had
There are some interesting ones that
menage a
I've-
trois up in there previously. What was it?
What?
What?
Remember a birthday gift?
Oh, there's another birthday gift one.
Oh,
Yeah.
was it? Did they
A birthday gift?
But more than
Why am I so low? The
This-
three.
This one wasn't a birthday gift. This one was a work party.
Oh, somebody got freaky.
Someone got.
It didn't involve crypto.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I always off subject here like normal. If you work somewhere with more than 100 people, there's always like some weird like sex thing going on up in there. Somebody's always sleeping with like half the staff. That's just how it is, bro. What you looking around for?
Nothing.
Say, man.
Can I crack my neck?
No.
Jesus.
There's always work
Yeah.
shenanigans going on.
You got a nice Rolex there, man. What if someone wants a Rolex but doesn't have the money for a Rob? What can they do?
Don't buy
Steal one.
No. You can sign up with Buy DeFi because they're doing a lot of giveaways based off of volume. So if you trade $1 million in volume, you get brand new AirPods. $5 million, an iPad. iPhone 16 if you trade 20 million. And if you want that Rolex that friend Rob over here has, Rolex Submariner, which is a $10,000, $100 million. So it's very attainable if you're a whale. And so sign up with Buy DeFi. We have a link in the description of the video. And also when you sign up, you can join the trading group in Discord, which is free, but you got to have an account and deposit $100 of your own money to trade, and then you can get access to our Discord. With that being said, I do want to move on from Solana. Actually, I don't want to move on from Solana. I want to stay on Solana for one more second. This is interesting. Solana treasuries get bullish. Wall Street forecasts despite market headwinds. Cantor Fitzgerald has launched coverage for public companies with Solana treasuries. The firm analysts believe SOL is a better treasury asset for companies than ETH. This is what the analysts wrote. Quote, with increased liquidity making it easier to raise capital, Solana treasury companies can follow the Sailor playbook and raise capital at a premium to NAV, purchase SOL, and increase SOL per share. Rob, they're saying this is better than Ethereum. What do you think?
It is. And we got people with clout, name, recognition that say it. So it's not just the crypto DJ telling you how much better Solana is. You got seasoned industry professionals, proven track record, saying, hey, why go to ETH when it's outdated, slow, and, well, nobody uses it? And you got Solana, people's champ. I'm telling you, man, $140 Solana is an absolute steal. And when we talk about, and I'm kind of joking here on Ethereum. Yes, there are people using it. But when I compare the two, one is on the way out, or at least one is losing dominance in the layer one space. And the other one is on the way up. And I asked myself, will Solana this bull market cycle get to $1,000? The answer for me is yes. Do you think, the two-part answer, or two-part question here. Do you think that Solana gets to $1,000 this bull market?
No.
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 Okay, well, we differ there. But I believe it does. But either way, my perspective is, will ETH get to $20,000?
This cycle?
Yeah, this bull market.
No.
Okay. And I agree with you there. I don't think that ETH gets to $20,000. So less than a 10x. It's, if it were to 10x from where it is now and put it at $25,000, which I do not think is going to happen. I don't think that ETH even gets over 12,000. And with that said, that's less than 5x. That's a 4x away. Even in a bullish scenario, which I think ETH will perform pretty well. I just don't think it'll eclipse that $15,000 mark. I don't think it'll eclipse 14,000, 12,000. I think maybe it gets up to that 10 or maybe 9,000. But I look at Solana, however, and I think that with its previous all-time high sitting at $250, and this was earlier this year. And so earlier this year, we saw that $250 Solana. I think that we get a 4x from its previous all-time high, which was just right in the rearview mirror. Also, the trend is that things are launching on Solana. dApps are launching on Solana. That's a place to be. So I think that adoption and keeps growing.
It's not the place to be right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm great. Something came over me.
What's that?
I don't know what it is. Something. I think it's the cold air we're getting from here. We're done for the day. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. Stay tuned in this show because you'll be automatically redirected to our friend Alex O, who's going to be running the trading show over at Sistine Trading. You can either go there yourself or you can just hang out in this chat and you'll automatically be redirected. Doing another giveaway. If we can get up to 10 million viewers, 200 live viewers and 100 likes, I'll give away $50. I'll have Alex pick someone. We'll give away $50 to one of you. We want to really get that channel off the ground. So big shout out to all of you and big shout out to Gina. Way too late on that one. I mean, we're doing so good for so long, and then today you just shit the bed. Yes, exactly. That's what you did. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate every one of you. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Until then, peace.
SINCITY, crypto. Everybody know what we here for. Entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in. For big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger turn